is who is our neighbor. It truly does not matter how many people encounter the wounded man or what professional affinity they have. It didn't matter at all. And I have to say, whether they were priests, lawyers, politicians, or ordinary people, but what happened is that whoever passed by at that time did nothing. What was important in this story is that there was compassion. And this story is about compassion that we give to one another regardless of our race, our ethnicity, tribe, culture, languages that we speak, or our sexual orientation or gender identity. And I have to say that as Christians and in our humanity, we are called to the liberty to love our neighbors as ourselves. Now, the level of response to love our neighbor is part of our determination to share with others what God has given to us. God is not asking us to share what God has not given to us. So we're here to share what God has given to us. The freedom to love, the freedom, so desperately needed in other parts of the world. Because when I was looking at this giant map of the world, and they're all color-coded about places where people are still being killed or harmed because of who they are. The freedom of people to be able to assemble, to praise God and to worship God. A freedom to pledge our cases of discrimination on the grounds of sexual orientation and gender identity without feeling that we need to justify our love. The freedom to come to God just as we are. The freedom to celebrate our love and stop living in fear daily. Now that freedom was part of the freedom that we experienced yesterday. And we can be rest assured that there are still some parts of the world where such freedom has been curtailed. And also the freedom to reconcile sexuality and spirituality. Now yesterday I had an opportunity to also run a workshop during the event. Now of course the workshop was titled No Gay in God with a question mark. And of course, we were talking about reconciling sexuality and spirituality. And then we had someone who was of the Buddhist faith and someone of the Islamic faith as well, and myself from the Christian faith. So we all had dialogue with about 12 people who came along to hear, a story of freedom to be who they are. A lot of them expressed their challenges, but we were grateful to God that we were able to share a journey that hopefully will lead people to reconcile sexuality and spirituality. What must we do? What must I do? According to the Bible reading today, the Good Samaritan did so many things. The Good Samaritan went out of his way. He came near the wounded man when he saw him. He didn't kind of keep a distance. He came near the wounded man. He was moved with pity. He went to him and bandaged his wounds. He poured oil and wine on his wounds. He placed the wounded man on his donkey and brought him to an inn and took care of him. And then the next day, he took out 2 denaries and gave them to the innkeeper. He paid for all the cost of caring for the wounded person. Another question I want to put to you, brothers and sisters, this evening. Are you a good Samaritan? Am I a good Samaritan? What must I do? What must we do? Jesus asked the lawyer, which of these people do you think who had an opportunity to be a good neighbor was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? I ask all of us just one more time. How many of us are good neighbors to the people around us? At our place of including LGBT people in distant countries. I know some people might say that, well, Jamaica is too far away, or, Australia is too far away, so they can't be our neighbors. I can tell you today that they're so close to us. All you have to do is get on an email, or maybe the interactive messages, or Skype. You have the video right in front of you and you're talking to somebody else in another part of the world. These are our neighbors no matter the distance. Have we considered them our neighbors? The question that still remains from my message today is, what must we do? According to the other reading as well, Mark chapter 12, verse 21 to 39, Jesus answered, and this is Jesus' response. This first commandment is, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. Now the second commandment is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these. And I've said this over and over again. If we cannot love our neighbors as ourselves, then we cannot love our neighbors. Now, if I live on a terrace building, and my building is right in the middle, and when I come out every morning, my neighbor to my right is a Muslim, and my neighbor to my left is a Buddhist, and I decide not to say good morning or hello, or actually have any kind of compassion for them, I am not loving my neighbor. The message is that we love our neighbor as ourselves, and there is no commandment greater than this. So like the Good Samaritan, let us go out of our way to reach out to others in need. Let us come near those that are wounded by religion or faith and culture. Recently I have a habit of sharing with people and telling them that, once we have a ministry in Nigeria, House of Rainbow in particular, and, I kind of like shared an analogy. And this is, we don't go to other churches to pull people out of the churches to come to our church. What we do is that, we go around the churches, and just think about this, and, in my illustration. We go around the churches to look for broken vessels, cups that are broken. And if you break a cup in your home, what do you do with the cup? You simply pack it up and throw it in the bin, and then you put it outside. But what we do as a ministry, as ministers, inclusive ministers, is that we go around to collect all these broken vessels. We bring them back, we mend them, and it will be visible that they are broken from the outside. But our job as inclusive ministers is to make them so that they can be usable. They can be much more richer from the inside. Are you flowing with me? And the important thing is that let us be moved with pity for people living under discriminatory laws. Let us come near those that are wounded by religion or faith or even by culture. Let us go to them so that they know that we care. I remember a sermon that blessed me a few years ago. And the minister was saying that for you to fulfill the mandate of a call, you need to get out of your comfort zone and go to the uncomfortable zone. And by going to the uncomfortable places, you will be able to show and prove the mandate of the love of God for the wounded people. But I have to remind us, that is not so easy. Even for the Levite, for the priest that walk by, there are laws that kind of restrict them as well. I've read different stories about this sermon. The priests in the Old Testament laws must not stop, must not touch what is likely to be a dead body because it will be defiled. So we cannot say that they're all guilty. But what the teaching is telling us is guiding us into knowing who our neighbors are and recognizing them. Let us pour oil and wine on their wounds. Let's make provision to protect and support them. Distance is no excuse to show that we care.